Hey guys, welcome back to Grafting Dragon Fruit. It's Richard, and in this video today, I'm going to be showing you guys how to graft a dragon fruit seedling to expedite its growth and get fruit super fast. So if you guys are ready, let's get to it. First step, you guys, is making sure you have all of your tools ready to get your graft started. You don't want to have all your graft stuff out and not have your tools ready because you're just gonna be scrambling everywhere to get this process clean, sterile before you even start grafting. So I'm gonna show you guys what tools I use and talk a little bit about them so you guys know what to have when you guys start your seedling graft. So most important thing to have is this paper tape here. This paper tape is just very sticky. If it ever gets wet, it doesn't come off through the humidity and it's easy to cut. And so that's why I really like using this. And they come sterile. Mine's a little dirty, but I haven't used it in a while, so that's why it's a little dirty. I also like to use alcohol prep pads. So these are 70%. You want to use 70% because that's the percentage of alcohol that actually kills the bacteria. So that way you're not going to spread anything once you're slicing through their core and all that. So make sure you have that. I also have a spray bottle. This is a 90% bottle, but I just refill it because I like how it has this spray nozzle. So I'll spray my tools in between use, let them dry so that way the whole process is nice and sterile. Okay, guys? Also, another favorite tool of mine is these double-sided shears. This makes it when I do a cut, like let's say I want to do like a horizontal cut, I can come in here, cut that, and then it will get a nice flesh cut that's going to be clean. It's not going to have a side that's going to rupture or anything like that. So the double-sided is a little important for that. And if you guys don't have access to a double-sided shear, I also like to use grafting knives, and these are really sharp. They get the job done very well. Sometimes I'll come in here just like this, and once I find a place where I want to make a cross-section cut, I just slide it through and it'll come right off. So these are always very useful. Love them a lot. And last but not least, I have here two different types of scalpels. This one's a gauge 10, and then this one's a gauge 15. Depending how small or how big the seedling is, when I'm talking about seedlings, I'm talking about these little guys here. We're gonna be cutting them so that way it makes a nice flesh cut that's very clean. So when I put it on top of each other, they're gonna stick very well and it's gonna be flush. So those are the tools, you guys. Oh, last but not least, you're gonna wanna use some type of plastic bag to cover your graft after you're finished doing all of the grafting and such. So have that ready. And I used garden tape to tie the bag. You don't have to use this. You can use string, you can use other plastic paper bags or whatever, as long as you're able to tie the bag at the end, and that will work just fine, okay? So those are all the supplies. Now let's go into the grafting. Now that we are ready to graft, you should have now your seedlings already sprouted. You're gonna want them to about this size. We're looking at about 2 to 3 centimeters in growth. After the cotyledons grow, you get your true leaves, and those are the actual dragon fruit that's gonna start growing. You guys see there's little spines on it yet, but they haven't matured enough where they can actually poke and hurt you, but if you do feel it, it's pretty prickly. The variety I have here today is going to be Hannah crossed with a Suntu 5. So what I did was I had a Hannah flower, it bloomed that night. I collected pollen from a Suntu 5, took that pollen, pollinated the Hannah flower with it. When the fruit was finally ripe, I harvested that fruit, saved the seeds, and now we have a hybrid of a Hannah crossed with a Suntu 5 together, and these are the new offspring. So we're going to take this, graft it onto our mature Vietnam white rootstock that has new growth. We'll talk a little bit about that later, but let me show you guys how I inspect and choose the seedling I'm going to use to graft. So first things first is you're going to want to look at one that's plumped, looking healthy, and looks like it has a lot of vigor growth. And another point that I want to point out is making sure that you see the cotyledon leaves that are long. So I'm talking about these leaves here. These ones are a bit short, so if I tape them, it might be a little hard. And if we go over here, this one has really nice pronounced cotyledon leaves. So I know if I put tape on that, that's gonna hold very well. I like how the true leaves here is very plump. It's a pretty good size, and down here too, the stem part is also very thick. So that's gonna make grafting the seedling graft a bit easier. So now I know which seedling I want. I'm gonna go ahead, take these scissors, And this is when I'll start using the alcohol pads. Anytime I'm doing a cut, a slice, or anything that involves me having to cut into the flesh, I'll start cleaning the scissors, the scalpel, whatever it is that I'm using. So I'm gonna let that dry out for a little bit, guys, making sure that's completely dry and that's actually killing bacteria. Don't jump right into it. Give it some time. Okay, it looks good to me. So I said I was gonna choose this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and go down there and cut very low because we're gonna slice this one more time. Just like that. And now we have this tiny seedling here. We're gonna use this to graft it onto the mature rootstock that we have. It has roots already. This is Vietnam white. It grows very well in my climate. So what I'm gonna do with this is, guys, I'm just gonna put it aside and we're gonna talk a little bit about how to graft the seedling onto the mature rootstock that we have here. All right, so let's get into that. I chose this rootstock mainly because in my environment in Southern California, they grow very vigorous and very well. So depending on your climate, you guys can choose Vietnam white if it grows really well in there. But if you notice a variety in your garden that just grows so well, doesn't get sick, has growth all the time and always putting out new shoots, I recommend you guys use that as your rootstock. I know I get this question a lot, what kind of rootstock to use? Vietnam white is always gonna be a really good base for you to use because they grow like crazy, they rarely get sick, and it's been around in our area for so long, so you know they're acclimated to our weather and you know how everything grows around here. So same principle, guys. Find a rootstock that works for you. If you notice Vietnam white doesn't work too well, try Sugar Dragon. I sometimes also use Sugar Dragon as rootstock, and I love to use Sugar Dragon. So I'll go back and forth depending on what I have available right away. All right, I have my seedling already ready here, so we're ready to get on and start grafting. So what I'm gonna do now is, guys, talk about when it's right or the time you use the rootstock to graft. So most important thing is your rootstock needs roots. So if you guys look in here, I have plenty of that. They're growing outside the soil. I need to top off the soil actually and water it so that way it can spread more of its roots. But it's nice and plump. You want a cutting that's nice and plump, has good roots, and about 3 to 4 inches of new growth. So this is the ideal rootstock for me to use to graft. What's next? The new growth always has the same cells as the baby growth here, the seedlings. Once you join these two together, the cells can recognize each other, so they heal and then they start to complement each other and grow, latch onto the dragon fruit rootstock, and they'll start to grow very quick. So that's why I like to use new growth. Once you use the branches that's been growing out for too long, maybe 6-7 inches, the cambium layer gets very woody and it becomes very hard to cut into the center to make a nice flush cut. So the new growth, they're always very soft. When you cut them, it goes right through. And I'll show you guys what I'm talking about now. And just in case if that doesn't happen, I have these shears here to cut through the woody part, but I'm trying to look for the softer part of the cambium layer, and that's what's gonna make it a lot easier for me. So what I'm gonna use now is this grafting knife of mine. I love this grafting knife. It's super sharp. I always keep it nice and clean. I put it away right away and I don't use it for anything else but grafting. So I want to take about maybe 1 to 2 inches or even just halfway. So let's start up here, and you want to make sure you cut as flat and as straight as possible. So I'm keeping my hands, my thumbs behind there, and making sure I don't cut myself. I feel that cambium, it's cutting. I'm gonna move back and forth, and perfect. Okay, let's slide right through. And that's what I want, you guys. See, it's not woody. You can see the cambium layer, the circle, the cambium core. It's that circle dot right there. Let me get this so I can show you guys. So what we're gonna wanna do is, guys, we're gonna wanna take the seedling and we wanna put it right over this circle. We wanna overlap that. And once we put it over there, you're gonna put the bag on, let it heal, and they'll start growing. So that's what you wanna look for when you cut the new growth on your rootstock, okay, guys? Now that we have this exposed, we now want to work very quickly because all the juices are going to start drying up, and this is where I'm going to start working very quick. Okay, guys, so let me put this away. We have the seedling. What I want to do now, guys, is I want to cut it as flush as possible to get it so close that it's almost touching the true cotton leaf. So I want to be about right here when I cut it. And that's just gonna make the base a lot bigger. So when I do try to tape it onto the cambium later, I have more surface area that's gonna touch the cambium core. So if you guys are ready, let's go ahead and get into the cutting. Here we go. I got my knife. We're gonna go right here, straight down like that. You have this little nub here. You're not gonna use that, but you want a flesh cut that's flush like that, nice and straight. It's not kind of bent or topple, so when you put it on, it sits nice and flat. Now that we have that, you're gonna wanna put this back down. I didn't tell you guys about this earlier, but I used that paper tape, and I have actually made some cuts here. So I kind of stick it to the table, and I make very small cuts. I would say this is about 1 centimeter in width. And what I do is I just cut them like that so they're ready. So when I am ready to start grafting, I can start putting on the leaves like this. So now this is where we're gonna take the tape. I wanna put it close as center as possible. Sorry guys, let me fix this. Because if you put it too far, once you bend it down, it can break the leaves. So try your best to put it as center as possible. And here I have it. It's gonna look something like this. So we have one leaf down. I'm gonna tape the other leaf after I put this on. So now, this is the tricky and the hardest part, but if you get so well at doing your grafts, this is gonna start becoming very easily. So we're gonna want to match that circle with this circle right here. So a lot of the times I'm just trying to find optimal position, which is maybe like this. And I just kind of pick it up and put it down. And once I feel comfortable, I will leave it there with one hand, and my other hand is just gently putting it down like that. So now that you can see, they're touching, everything looks aligned. I'm doing my inspection left, right, I'm looking from the back. I'll turn my head this way. It looks great. So we're touching the cambium. All that's left is to secure the other leaf. Make sure both sides are tight. You want no gaps in these guys. Make sure it's as tight as possible where you don't see a hole. If you see any gaps, then it's gonna detach from each other and fall off. So same thing, that's the other side. We're gonna put it on right in the center. Just like that. Boom. Okay, I'm looking, looks good. This side looks great. Now what am I gonna do is, I know I have some tape on already guys, but I always add a second layer of tape to make sure it really keeps it on. Just in case the first layer falls off, the second one will kind of keep it attached down. Humidity does get into it, so you might get it try to escape off, but that's why the second tape is gonna prevent it from doing that. So now, I'm just gonna do another tape right over that. And now I actually gonna push down as I go. So there is force going down, and then I use my thumb to kind of just push it like that. We're gonna do the same thing to this side. Here, center. I'm pushing down now. A little bit of pressure, not too much where you're gonna break the leaves. And like that. So once you guys have those double tape on, what I do now is I take an extra tape. These sides sometimes lift, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna put some tape here to make sure that no lifting is gonna happen. You push it down with your finger to make sure it really adheres into the cutting there. Same thing with the other side. Here. Just like that. All right, like I said, that was the hardest part, you guys. In the beginning, when I first started grafting, my hands were not as steady as you guys see now. It was very shaky, and that's just because I was nervous and I wasn't sure if I was doing it right. But after so many times, you build the confidence, you start seeing growth on your grafts, and you just start to figure it out. It just clicks once you do a few and that you see it start growing. You just start to get so much experience, and you see the process, and you just get better at it. So that's it, guys. Now you just gotta make sure you have a bag now. We're gonna bag it up, wait 3 to 5 days. After 3 to 5 days, you can take it out and we can put it in the sun. But before you guys put it in the sun, we're gonna bag it. What I like to do is I take this part off because it kind of makes it hard for me to scrunch up. So guys, once you guys bag it, you're gonna wanna put it into an area that has no sun for about 10 to 15 days. That just makes sure that the sun doesn't fry up the little graft that we did, and it gives it time to heal and latch onto the cutting and then start to push growth. So 5 days with the bags on, 3 to 5 days. After 3 to 5 days, you take the bag completely off and you leave it in the shade still. So that means that if you took the bag off 5 days, that means it's already been 5 days in the shade. So you're gonna leave it without the bag for an additional, you know, maybe up to 10 days, so another 5 days, or you're gonna be very sure and do 15 days. It's totally up to you and how hot your climate is. But I usually see the 10th day is a nice sweet spot. Just like this, we're tying up, making sure the bag doesn't touch the graft because the water, the humidity does get a little foggy in this bag, and if it touches, you don't want any of that water to get into your grafts and detach anything. Now we have a graft, it's nice and tight. We have a bag that's protecting it from drying out too quickly. Last but not least is labeling your grafts. Make sure you label your grafts because if you do a bunch of these and you toss them in, what I do is I put it into my shed there, and there's a window, kind of acts like a greenhouse, but there's not a lot of sun hitting it, and I can line it so many in there that I forget. So to prevent myself from forgetting, we're gonna just go ahead and label what we did today. So this is Hana. Hana crossed with a Asunta 5 Paco. And I did this on, today's probably the 18th or 19th actually, 24. What am I gonna do is put it right here. Sometimes I write it on a bag, but I've noticed once I take off the bag, it leaves with it. So I started putting on the pot to make sure that it's always labeled. Sometimes it fades away, I just rewrite again and slap it back on. But once you do this graft and everything is successful, this is what you're gonna expect to see. Here is a completed graft that I did last season. And I used this graft because I did a cross with it. And I was trying to see if I can do a Pelora cross. And this is Pelora cross with American Beauty. As you can see, here was where it started as a seedling. You can see the tape on it still. So you see this tape is really good, you guys. It's still stuck on there. You see the little tiny Coltodon leaves in there. But within months, it became a seedling and into a mature growth so quick. Within 3 to 4 months, I had all of this growth already. It's mature. If I plant it into a trellis, it's definitely gonna fruit for me next season or this season. So I'm definitely gonna do that. We have an American Beauty, Pelora crossed with American Beauty here. So I'm excited of what comes out of this. And also super excited of what this Hana and Asunta 5 Paco is gonna give me. And that's the power of grafting, you guys. You use a seedling like this, you graft it onto a mature rootstock, it expedites its growth, and then you're gonna have new fruits that no one has ever tried before that you created yourself within a year or two. And that is why grafting seedlings is so fun and so cool, and that's why everybody in the dragon fruit community do them. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video today. If you guys did, hit that like button. If you have any comments, leave in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next video, so that way you guys won't miss this next thing. See ya.